I just wanted to say a couple other emerging energy is wind power, and I hear Texas is like #1 now in wind power.
Yes.
And then biofuels.
Yes.
I'm from the East Coast, and we're seeing a brother driving a recycled biofuel truck around the Washington Beltway where he collects, I guess, oils. And you know, the idea I have, can you go to KFC and McDonald's for all the fried and then get that oil recycled because it can burn as diesel fuel?
I think that's a great entrepreneurial area for African Americans to get into. If you can make that profitable. On wind, it's really tough because of the 30% capacity factor for wind. And it leads me into my next and final project description that we're working on. It's a number of them we're working on, but since we don't have much time, I wanted to target ones we're doing. When you go to, technically the 30% capacity factor is a problem, but we've been trying to build a plant that I'm going to describe in a minute. And when you get with the financiers, the investor guys, it becomes tough. That is, wind and solar only work 30% of the time. 30% of the time. So you compare that 30% of the time with your avoided cost from the utility, which is anywhere from 4 to 6 to 7 cents. Financing gets real tough, and so those tax credits and all of that you get from Washington becomes crucial to your project. And they're just passing those from year to year. It's no way to really do it. We were the first environmental group to go up and support the Cape Wind project off the coast of Massachusetts, testified at MIT up there in support of that project. So yes, but that's just a tough path, especially for blacks to get into it. The financing and the return on that investment is going to be so tough to get. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was at, you mentioned nuclear power.
Yes, sir.
Is there, I heard something about using a different type of fuel rod rather than the uranium-235 that everybody uses, or 237, which has a shorter half-life. Because part of the problem with the Japan scenario is that they have all these spent rods whose half-life is like hundreds of years, so you got to store it somewhere. Do you know anything about this technology?
With a lower half-life?
With a shorter half-life of roughly about 10 years from what I understand.
Yeah, well, there might be, but the problem is you get back to financing again. The U-235 in the marketplace is the best and cheapest way to do it now. And so that's what's going to happen. There are other ways like the MOX I talked about, the mixed oxide, but that uses highly enriched uranium and plutonium. So it's a market-driven approach. If you could beat that milling and mining and milling of U-235, maybe, but that's what the market likes. That's what they accept, and that's what they're going to use. I don't see that. You're still going to have nuclear waste. I have been to Yucca Mountain. That's where they should put it. I mean, I stood on top of the mountain and went through the 5-mile tunnel. I didn't see a rabbit. There were no trees. I mean, there's nothing there, but that's kind of political.
Yeah.
I won't get too much into that. You're still going to have to store the waste even if it had a shorter half-life. I mean, some of the fission products, and we could get into that, but I don't want to get too much into that today, but I'd love to afterwards. We can. The last project I want to describe is what we're doing right now, which is really exciting for us, is a wood chip plant we're trying to build in Mississippi. Wood chip to electricity. And we're trying to use a different technology. We're trying to take the technology from laboratory scale to commercial scale. And that is a wood chip plant that converts the wood chips into methane and then burns the methane in a turbine engine to produce electricity. Instead of using wood chips to boil water, to use the standard Rankine cycle to try to spin a generator to produce electricity that way. So we're hoping to demonstrate that. And that's very exciting. We've got investors who have supported us in Mississippi. We've gotten approval from the city of Port Gibson, and we've gotten approval from the Claiborne County to go forward. All we need to do now is purchase the land and get the investors to put up the $10 million for the plant. Yes, sir.
How much volume in the wood chips are we talking?
A lot of volume. We're talking, when we first started off, we wanted to build a 1 megawatt plant. Then our money guys, and I hate for me to call them money guys, you know, no, Norris, we're not money guys, we're investors. So it was a 1 megawatt plant that was going to use 1 ton of wood chips per hour. So 10 tons, 10 megawatt, you're looking at 10 tons per hour. So that's a lot of wood chips. And that's our challenge, is to go from that laboratory scale to commercial scale to prove it. But if we can prove it, and here's what we're trying to do.
Landfill, I guess, the landfill to contain your chips, or what kind of acreage do you need to?
We're looking at trying to lease 25 acres. We won't need all that acreage. there'll be plenty of room to store the chips in. But that's the first plant we're trying to get built, and that's the one we're furthest along on. The second one is in California. We're trying to build one on Catalina Island. It's about 30 miles off the coast of Los Angeles, mostly because I love Catalina Island. But the investors are kind of interested. They haven't put up the money for us to approach that yet, but I hope they will. But the key to that particular project, and Texas should really like this, is that we want to use wood chip. We want to use wood from the wildfire areas in California as our fuel. So we went out there about 3 weeks ago. I met with the Department of Insurance, and we met with all of the legislators and all that stuff to pitch this, that look, prevent these wildfires. Of course, what am I looking at today? I'm looking at Texas, and I'm looking at Delmetria. You shouldn't have these wildfires, and to the extent we can get a subsidy to help us out, we could maybe get the fuel for free, which helps on the financing part. Part of what we like to do is to practical solutions to environmental problems, and that's why I'm just delighted that I was invited to speak at this conference today, because you guys are the scientists. I'm not a scientist. I'll hire scientists to do the science. But it's important that especially in places like Port Gibson, I think that's the poorest county in the United States and the poorest city. And for them to see black scientists coming in doing this sort of work is really helpful. With black engineering firm doing our engineering force. So it's really important. So thank you so much for inviting me here today. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Very quick question.
Yes, sir.
I'm a product of Mississippi. Fort Gibson has a nuclear power plant really close.
Randolph.
What kind of opposition have you met from them?
We met with the owner of I toured Randolph, by the way. That's what got me involved in the wood chip plant. They wanted to build another facility there, so we used to go down and testify before NRC in support of the facility. I didn't want to go down there at first because I said, man, I don't want to go down there because it's going to be a buzzsaw. You know, these black people are going to oppose it. And I got down there and all black people supported the project. The NAACP, the county, the residents, and everything. Like, oh, that was in heaven. And the anti-nuclear activists were trying to drum up environmental injustice. And I said, well, it can't be an injustice if all the blacks here want the project. That's what got me interested in the wood chip plant there, was my work on Grand Gulf. That's a boiling water reactor, just like the ones in Japan, Fukushima, that blew up. They wanted to build another reactor there, and we support that. It's not going to happen now because nuclear became too expensive. When I first supported nuclear power, plants were supposed to cost $1 billion. That was in 2000. Now they're up to $10 billion. What's supposed to be $1 billion, now it's $10 billion. So nobody's going to risk the entire operation on one plant. So that's why I'm thinking what we've discovered is that they said that Mississippi is the Saudi Arabia of biomass. And so we want to get this wood chip plant, and we can build one, it could really take off. Anyway, our aspect is practical solutions, and so thank you for the time today.
Good afternoon. My name is Perry Catchings. I'm Vice Chairman of the Board of NOBCChE.
Okay.
I would just like to thank you very much for being a part of this presentation today and being the speaker. And wood chips galore. I mean, it sounds very encouraging. Part of the NOBCChE tradition, we would like to offer you our NOBCCchE candy cloth.
Thanks.
Such that you will forever be part of the NOBCCchE family.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.